in science, we love a good, simple model. But what happens when that perfect idea smacks right into the messy, real world? Well, today, we're going to find out by diving into something called the ideal gas law. So, just imagine for a second, what if gases behaved perfectly? What if they followed just a few simple, clean rules? All our math would be neat, our predictions spot on. Well, that perfect hypothetical world is exactly where our story begins.
All right, here's the plan. We'll start with the perfect model, see where it kind of falls apart, figure out the two big reasons why, then see how scientists fix it, and wrap up with why any of this actually matters in the real world. Let's do it.
Okay, first up, the perfect gas law. You might remember this one from chemistry class. It's a fantastic tool for sure, but, and this is a big but, it's built on a couple of assumptions that, as we're about to see, don't always hold up.
So what even is an ideal gas? Well, it all boils down to two huge simplifications. First, the gas particles themselves, they're supposed to take up zero space, like nothing. And second, they don't interact with each other at all. No pulling, no pushing, no stickiness, zip. Right, so in this perfect little world, gas particles are just these tiny, tiny points just zipping all over the place. And when they hit each other, it's like a perfect game of pool. They just bounce off like billiard balls with zero energy lost. And this is the key part, they're completely ignoring each other. They just don't care that other particles are there. You know, for a lot of situations, this model works surprisingly well. It gets you pretty close. But if you start pushing a real gas to its limits, really cranking up the pressure or dropping the temperature, you start to see these cracks appear. Suddenly, the math just doesn't quite work anymore. Our beautiful model starts to fail. So that brings us to the big question, right? When does this perfect model actually break down? If it's so useful most of the time, we really need to know its breaking point. When does reality just say, nope, your simple rules don't apply here? And it really boils down to two specific scenarios. First, super high pressure. That's when you're squeezing all those particles together. And second, really low temperature, which means those particles are moving way, way slower. Both of these situations just totally expose the flaws in our perfect little setup. Okay, let's make this real. Imagine the ideal gas law tells you that under some crazy high pressure, your gas should fit perfectly into a 1-liter bottle. But then you go and actually do the experiment, and what do you find? It takes up 1.2 liters. Now that's not just a rounding error, that's a huge difference. Something is clearly wrong with our prediction. Just look at this chart. It makes it so obvious. The blue bar, that's what our simple, perfect model predicts. But the red bar, that's what we actually get in the real world. You can see it clear as day. At high pressures, the real volume is always bigger than the ideal one. So, what is taking up that extra space? All right, now we get to the fun part. We're about to pull back the curtain and look at the two big reasons, the two fatal flaws really, in the ideal gas model. This is the heart of it, why perfect just isn't real. Okay, flaw number one. I call it the volume problem. See, our perfect model just assumes that gas particles are these imaginary dimensionless points. But they're not. They're real things. They have size. Here's a great way to think about it. An ideal gas is like a map with a bunch of dots on it. The dots themselves don't take up any space on the map. But a real gas? That's like a map full of actual cars. Those cars have volume. Now, on a huge empty highway, that's low pressure. The space the cars take up barely matters. But what happens in a traffic jam? That's high pressure. Suddenly, the volume of the cars themselves becomes a massive deal. It reduces all the empty space and jacks up the total volume. And that brings us to flaw number two, the attraction problem. This one is just as big a deal. Remember how our perfect model assumes the particles totally ignore each other? Well, in the real world, they don't. There are these little tiny forces of attraction between them. So if our ideal particles are like those perfect billiard balls, then real particles are more like slightly magnetic balls. They're a little bit sticky. So when they pass by each other, especially when they're moving slowly at low temperatures, they give each other a little tug. And that little inward pull means they don't smash into the walls of the container quite as hard. The result? The pressure we actually measure is lower than what our perfect model would predict. Okay, so our simple model has a couple of big problems. Does that mean we just toss it in the trash? No way. Scientists did something way smarter. They fixed it. They built a better model that actually accounts for reality. So they came up with new equations, like the famous van der Waals equation. Now, you don't need to memorize the math, just get the idea. It basically starts with the simple ideal law and then makes two clever adjustments. First, it subtracts a little bit of space to account for the actual volume of the particles. And second, it adds a little correction factor to account for that sticky attraction between them. Brilliant, right? And there's this fantastic quote from a statistician named George Box that just nails it. All models are wrong, but some are useful. The ideal gas law is definitely wrong in the sense that it isn't perfect, but man, is it useful. It's the foundation we build everything else on. So, you might be sitting there thinking, okay, this is kind of cool science, but does it really matter? Oh, it absolutely does. Understanding the difference between a perfect gas and a real gas is critical out here in the real world.
I mean, really think about it. If you're an engineer designing a scuba tank and you only use the perfect gas law, you're going to get the calculation wrong for how much air you can safely stuff in there. That's a huge safety issue. Weather forecasters need these corrections to predict hurricanes. Chemical plants need them to manage reactions. And you better believe aerospace engineers are using these real gas equations to figure out exactly how much fuel to load into a rocket. It's everywhere.
So here's the bottom line. The whole point of this is that we don't study perfect models because they're real. They're not. We study them because they give us a starting point. And by understanding exactly where and why that simple model breaks down, we get the tools we need to master the incredible complexity of the real world.
And that leaves me with one last thought for you. We see these ideal models all over science, right? Frictionless surfaces in physics, perfectly rational people in economics. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other perfect models are out there? And what amazing, complex, and fascinating realities are we just waiting to uncover right underneath the surface?